Hi there, welcome to this special interview. I'm calling it Building Capacity to Treat Mental Health here in Guyana. This is done through collaboration between Guyana and Canada, more specifically the Guyana Canada Mental Health Team. Some 19 members of this team are currently here in Guyana to provide assistance in various areas to help deal with mental health. With me is a team leader, Dr. Peter Kunnert, and he's a specialist in his own right, a physician, and he's done work in throughout Canada, more specifically north of Canada. You were telling me a bit earlier.
That's right. I spent the first 7 years of my practice in Canada's Arctic region in the town of Inuvik in the Northwest Territories.
So we're here now to talk about what has been happening in helping to deal with mental health here in Guyana. I'm told it started in 2013, but probably one of your team members would have been here over the last 10 years trying to do some work.
That's right. We have a team member, Reverend John O'Connor, who's been teaching first-year nursing students at the St. Joseph Mercy Hospital, as I say, for the last 10 years, and who 2 years ago approached me with the idea that perhaps we could do something more in collaboration with the Ministry of Health in Guyana to help with mental health care delivery. And so last year we were honored, 5 of us came down to see Guyana firsthand, to tour some of the facilities, to meet Dr. Byro Harry and the Minister of Health. And out of that first week's introduction, we knew that we were welcome to come back and that we could begin this collaboration, which we hope is not just the 10 days that we're here now, but will become a multi-year initiative that we do together.
And I must add for our viewers that this initiative is supported by the Ministry of Health, the Minister of Health, the Honorable Dr. Barry Ramsran. They're giving full support to the team members in helping to get your work done. When we talk about mental health, somehow I believe there's some kind of stigmatization that will come with that. First of all, if you don't mind, Doctor, explain when we talk about mental health, what basically are we talking about?
Well, mental health is, in its broadest form, how we perceive life, right? It is what makes us happy, how we react when we're sad, when we're angry, when we're frustrated. Mental health has both good aspects to it, and when our mental health is poor or when it starts to become ill or broken down, then we see disorders starting to develop. Disordered ways of being in life, of understanding our reality, which limit our ability to do the things that make us, to contribute to our families, our work, our community. So mental health has both a positive side and a negative side.
I'm more interested at the beginning to talk about the positive side, because given the connotation that surrounds mental health, one may not necessarily see a positive side, but I would like you to explain that.
Well, the positive side is all those things that help create capacity within ourselves to be who we are to the best of our ability, right? Okay. All that gives us resilience, right? When life throws us a curveball and we don't know how to handle that, right? Rather than throwing our hands up in despair, saying, I didn't see that coming, there's no hope left, right? What helps us to be strong, to work out solutions, to engage with others to make life better? And so, the positive aspects of mental health could be the personal things that I do, reading, education. It could be things that I give back at work to make my workplace better. It could be my connections to my faith community, whatever that community is, to make my community a stronger place. It could be the time I spend with my family, right? Helping build up my family so that we are all...
the happy times, basically.
Exactly.
And when you spoke about poor mental health now breaking down, do you care to maybe give some specifics in that area?
Well, when we lose our capacity, when we lose our resilience, we start to take on a negative understanding of our world, right? Anxiety, which hopefully we only experience for short periods and we resolve, can become a pervasive part of our life. We doubt ourselves, we doubt what we can do, we doubt the resources in our community. Maybe that leads then to depression, right? Maybe then that leads to ways that we try and treat our unhappiness and our anxiety. So we reach for things that aren't good for us, substances I'm talking about. Could it be alcohol? Could it be pot? right? And we have in my community of Kitchener-Waterloo, we have, which is an urban community, the entire region, about 700,000 people the size of Guyana. We have every substance that you can use available in our community, right? So substance misuse, alcohol misuse is a problem we have in our community, probably every community, every major community and small community in Canada.
Like everything else, I believe there will be various levels. I mean, I'm not an expert, you are, various levels, because I think we tend to see the extreme, someone being hospitalized, but and they're locked away because they're considered to be insane and whatever. I'd want to assume that's the extreme. Am I right?
Absolutely. Sometimes people need a hospital as a protective environment, right? A place where they can be cared for, where they can get well, right? Regain the strength, capacity, resilience that they need to go back and resume their role in their family, in their workplace, in their community. And I think we see hospitals as places of care, temporary places, and we hope that people will recover, right, and go back into the community. Sometimes one needs to create places, halfway houses, if you will, right, where people can continue that process of recovery before they can fully return to their normal life. But we hope that people, after a time of hospitalization, some care, perhaps some treatment, are able to resume the fullness of their life.
You mentioned depression, so I was hoping that you'd probably go in a progressive way, so that would probably lead to the extreme, because there may be signs that family members can look for in someone who might be showing these symptoms. I don't know what those symptoms are. I don't know if you can explain that.
Well, thinking about a youth in a family, right? A family might notice that a previously very engaging son or daughter who has many friends, right, participates in many activities, does well at school, right, isn't doing those things anymore, right? They're withdrawing more and more, right? They're not returning calls of friends, they're not going out as much. Perhaps the family notices the grades are falling, right? Those are perhaps they're seeing signs that substances are entering into the life of their youth on a regular basis, right? Those are all warning signs that something is not right in that child's life, right? In an adult's life, someone who is suffering from a major depression, a mother who has difficulty getting out of bed to make lunches for her children to go to school, right? A father who misses work because he can't get himself out of bed. Parents who stop calling their relatives, right, for family celebrations, things that they used to always do. They were part of the wider family. Now they're not going, right? They're not returning calls. They're falling. The world is collapsing in on themselves, right? Those are warning signs.
And those are times then that the family need to provide some kind of support, get help.
Well, it's certainly a time to maybe gently ask a question, right?
Okay.
Is everything okay? What can we do? Do you need to talk to someone, right? Do you need to find resources in the community? Perhaps there are counselors available in the faith community, at the local hospital, family physicians. Are there people that you can talk to find out what's going on, because you are not yourself.
So was it just a case, okay, I just need some space to work some things out? Should family members still be worried about that? Or should continue to monitor?
Well, when the medical community talks about major depression, right, which has become a physical illness, right, usually symptoms are going on for at least 2 weeks, right? Okay. So, I mean, if someone has had a bad day at work or a bad day at school, right, or a bad day at home,
that's okay.
That happens, right? Sometimes it's a bad couple of days or a bad week, right? But it's when there's never a break, right? People who used to be able to laugh, tell a joke, can no longer find anything funny, right? People who had lots of energy, helped their neighbors, they're not getting out of the house. They're spending the day on the couch and then going to bed at night, right? Basic things that the family needs to happen on a daily basis aren't getting done, or other people are having to take extra loads because that person is no longer able to fulfill that role. When depression is lasting for 2 weeks, and there's that kind of change in function, it's become a physical illness then, and then it probably needs something more than just doing what you've been doing.
If I can ask you from a medical standpoint, when you say physical illness, what exactly may be happening internally?
Well, we know that the brain is part of the body, right? The brain helps us to perceive our world, right? And that the brain communicates, different parts of the brain communicate electrically with electricity, but also with neurohormones, neurochemicals, right? Adrenaline, noradrenaline, serotonin, dopamine. These are all chemicals that the brain uses to send different messages from one part of the brain to the other. When depression becomes a physical illness, some of these neurochemicals get out of balance, right? And not only does that affect our perception of the world and our role in it, but it affects us physically, our energy, our concentration, our memory, our initiative. And so we know that there are treatments that can help realign that neurochemical balance.
So people can be cured eventually.
Yes.
Can be cured.
Absolutely.
Because what I'm trying to drive at here, especially for our audience here, is that in trying to break the stigma that can be attached or is attached to persons who may be suffering from poor, to use your term, poor mental health. I'm hoping that this interview will be able to dispel some of that as we go along. So to recap then, this is not something that we should be able to attach a stigma to. It's something that can really be wrong with someone and they need help.
You know, as human beings, we all have high points in our lives. We all have low points, right? And we all need each other to get out of the low points of our life. Sometimes, if that low point is protracted, we need a little bit of extra help, right? Just before I was talking about medical treatment, drug treatment for depression. Talk therapy works too for people who prefer that. Sometimes on an extreme end, people may need the care of a facility. And fortunately, there are facilities like that, certainly in Canada, and hopefully in Guyana there's going to be more capacity in the future. People needed a short hospitalization, they have access to that.
So one of the things that can help you is to support from family and friends during this period. I'm reading here that part of what your team will be doing is that you'll be donating an electroconvulsive therapy piece of equipment to the National Psychiatric Hospital in New Amsterdam, and to reintroduce this kind of technique in Guyana. Do you care to explain this piece of equipment and exactly what it is it will do?
So ECT, or electroconvulsive therapy, is a tool of psychiatric treatment that's been around for over 50 years, right? It was actually available in Guyana, we understand, as late as 1985, and then for various reasons hasn't been available for the last 25 years or so. So when we came last year, we thought that was something that we could do fairly simply, is to bring this machine back and provide training around the use of the machine, which for extreme cases of depression where people have perhaps lost the ability to eat, to even drink, right? So normally hunger and thirst makes us eat and drink when we're hungry and thirsty, right? But if someone is so severely depressed that they have lost the sensitivity to that urge, right? They can literally starve themselves to death or dehydrate themselves to death, right? So in a case like that, this is a life-saving therapy because it's more effective than drug therapy. You know, it's standard treatment around the world, available to psychiatrists in the appropriate cases. In our region of the Waterloo-Wellington region in Ontario, where we have 3 hospitals providing psychiatric care, we have 3 machines available, right? So it's not something new. What the treatment is, it provides a little bit of an electrical stimulus while someone is anesthetized. And to use a physical metaphor, people know about computers. Most people have a personal computer, right? If there's a problem with the computer, you shut it down, you reboot it, right? It's a way of rebooting the brain, which readjusts the neurochemical status of the brain, and is an effective treatment of depression.
So I presume the rate of success is fairly high in this regard?
So I'm a generalist, I'm a family physician. my psychiatric colleagues tell me that it's used with greater success rates than a standard drug therapy for depression. But it is for, as I said before, for severe cases of depression where the depression is becoming life-threatening. So it is a life-saving therapy for severe depression.
And this will now be available. This kind of treatment will now be available at the National Psychiatric Hospital in New Amsterdam.
That's
after you would have made this donation. Have you made it already? The donation.
The machine
that
is there. As we're speaking, the team is leaving to go to New Amsterdam this afternoon,
Okay,
where they're
sort
going
it
to
out.
spend the next 3 days working with the medical team in New Amsterdam to show our policies and procedures, how we select patients, demonstrate the machine, so that it will be ready for use. I think they're even going to. I think some patients have already been pre-selected, so that it can be for those who need the therapy. That will be happening even this week.
Well, first of all, let me commend you guys for this effort
Thank you.
in doing this. And as I said, I'm happy this really started officially last year.
That's right.
And the Ministry of Health has provided support in this regard. In addition to donating the piece of equipment, I'm told you also will be training doctors and nurses to be able. I want to assume the use of the equipment.
Absolutely.
And would there be any other area that you'll be training the nurses and doctors in?
Well, so that training around the use of this equipment in New Amsterdam is a big part of this year's trip.
Okay.
Probably 10 members will be in New Amsterdam, and that includes psychiatrists, nurses, social workers, are all part of that team in New Amsterdam to do that training to create a local medical force who can use that equipment safely and effectively as a life-saving technique. We have other members of the team who are today in Linden for the monthly psychiatric clinic there. On Friday, we have the opportunity to go